Good evening, everyone. This is Dr. Neeraj Rohida, and welcome to the DTS Pro webinar. Uh, so just before I begin the webinar, if you have any questions, you may kindly directly text it on this, or we shall have a one-on-one discussion at the end of the session. This session should be roughly around 20 to 25 minutes, where we will throw light upon the basic functionality of the DTS Pro AI software and some of the new update features which have been incorporated in the latest upgrade. So before we move ahead, just to make sure you are on the latest software, you can just go to the help menu on top about DTS and make sure you have the version 16.4, which is the latest version. Right? Okay, so let us start by uploading a single extraoral image of a patient here. A few tips which I want to share about the photography protocol with DTS is as follows. So whenever you are shooting an image, make sure there is a little interincisal space. So there is a small gap between upper and lower teeth. So a good tip here, which we always recommend, is ask the patient to say the letter A, and then smile wide. The moment you say A, you get this little interincisal space, which is ideal for a simulation image. Okay. Once you have uploaded the image, the AI engine in the software will start the automatic detection of the smile line, the interpupillary line, and the patient's midline. So it typically takes around 8 to 9 seconds for the AI function to work, depends upon the graphics card capabilities of your system. Once I go to the next screen, you see that the smile line has been automatically detected by the software. Of course, you can edit this further. You can add more control points by clicking anywhere between 2 points. And if you want to delete a point, you can just right click over it. I'm sure most of you are users of the DTS Pro software and you know the basic functionality. I will be, of course, throwing light on major functions, not going into a lot of detail about each and every step. There are detailed tutorials available on the website regarding each and every step. Additionally, each screen on the software, as most of you are aware, does have a small help tip or a video guide to just explain you the function and the control of that particular screen. Right? So once we have marked the smile line, I just go to the next slide, which has the interpupillary line mark and the patient's midline marked as well. You can again just change the orientation of the pupils if needed. But by and large, the software does a decent job of detecting the interpupillary line and the midline in most of the cases. So you don't need to tweak it a lot. Right. So with that single tip, I repeat the tip here that whenever shooting any image, always have a little interincisal space, small gap. If you take the photograph of the patient in biting position, sometimes becomes difficult for you to carry out simulations of upper and lower teeth individually. So always have this little interincisal space. Right. So here, let me throw light upon the first tool, that is the instant smiles. It is one of the most commonly used tools in DTS Pro program. Now, this is a tool which can be used for most of your patients, your orthodontic simulations, your full mouth simulations, veneers. So this is something called as a motivational tool or the ice breaking tool, where you just take a single extraoral picture, create an instant smile simulation, show it to the patient, and get that excitement level built up right in the first visit. So I have just gone to the instant smiles screen here. Now, there are two control points here which can be used to get a good fit of that smile template on the patient's original teeth. We can use these two opacity bars on top. So by reducing the template opacity, I make that entire new smile template transparent so that I can easily check the position of the underlying teeth there. And with the background opacity, you can choose to make the other noise in the background or the other teeth in the background opaque, or you can let the other teeth show. Of course, we can change the shade, change the smoothness of the template in the next preview section. Here, you're just getting a basic fit of the template. You can navigate through different templates which are provided in the library. So we have updated the DTS Pro library here. So there are newer templates to work around with. So for example, if I just want to stick to template number 1 in this case, I just go to the preview section, compare. Now here is what we can carry out the different adjustments. So I just press the adjust tab. You can change the brightness. As you can see, the brightness of the instant smile template is getting altered. You can make the shade of teeth a little warm, or you can make it whiter as needed. There is a new shadow feature which has been added. You can create a little more realistic simulation. I'll just zoom up the image a bit so that you can appreciate the changes. So this gives you a little shadow along the upper template, makes it more realistic. Lip smoothness, always keep it high so that the template blends with the underlying lip tissue and gives you a very realistic simulation. And of course, the gum texture can be made more pink, or it can be made more towards the magenta shade. So from an orangish shade to a more magenta shade is what you can change the gum tissue from. So that's my simulation. I can always keep the template opacity slightly less so that it is a good blending. I would like to keep the brightness slightly low. It appears too bright. And I'm done with the simulation. So it takes me less than 2 minutes to actually upload the patient's image, carry out an instant smile simulation, and present it to the patient. So even before the patient once you have shot the patient's image, upload it in the DTS software, and even before the patient is just about there, the simulation is ready to be presented to the patient on the big screen, right? You can change the templates as needed, follow the same protocol. So let us try with another template here. Let me choose template number 4 in this case, or maybe let me go with template number 9, oval 9. I like this oval shape of teeth. The patient's face is oval too. I go to the preview section and we can just repeat those steps again. Adjust. Increase the brightness a bit. Make teeth a little warm if you want, or keep it whiter. Lip smoothness is already adjusted, and gum texture can be adjusted a bit as well. So that's my instant smile simulations. You can play this on a video loop for the patient to present it in the form of before-after simulation. This can be exported and then sent to the patient as an attachment. So you can export it in the form of a JPEG or a PNG file. And of course, you can save the entire project. If the patient is due for a second consultation visit, you would even want to save the entire project in the form of a DTS project file, so that you can open it later in front of the patient for a one-on-one consult. Right? So that was about instant smiles. Coming to smile editing tools. Now, not each and every patient who presents to us would need a full mouth rehabilitation. There might be simple cases, a simple enamel chip, some whitening which is needed, some gum contouring which is needed. So smile editing tools on the screen where you can simulate individual teeth changes. So on the screen, just remember 2 tools which are very useful tools: extend and the whitening tool. So whitening, as the name suggests, you can just whiten the shade of teeth. Simple simulation, but a really helpful simulation for your bleaching cases. So typically, if you want to whiten one shade, you increase the whiteness by +10. If you're looking at 2 shades of change, +20, so on and so forth. So if I want to simulate 4 changes of clinical whitening, I would keep it to say around 40. Slightly increase the brightness if need be. And that's my simulation done for whitening. I can just compare it in the form of a before-after image there. right? Coming back to the same screen, I will just zoom up the image a bit. Now, extend tool is a tool which can be used for simulating your gingival changes. So there is a brush size tab on top. So that's the size slider. I can keep it approximately 1 tooth wide and just left click and press. That is all I need to do. Just left click on the mouse, keep the left click on and just press. So that shifts the gingiva in the apical direction. Sometimes we as dentists understand that even a little change in, say, for example, the gingival zenith would make a world of a difference in the patient's smile harmony. But these are reductive cases. These are subtractive cases. We have no other means but digital simulations to explain the patient the desired treatment changes. So simple tool like an extend tool can help you in such scenarios. You can even use the extend tool to slightly change the contour of your enamel. So I'm just moving the enamel in a more apical direction. So for your simple build-ups, for your gingival recontouring, for changing the gummy smile, this is where the extend tool comes into play. So as you can see, let us just see the change that we have done. So this becomes a good visual tool for patient communication. Right? So that's the extend tool. On the screen, there are selection tools too. So for example, I can just select if I have to increase the length of these teeth, I can just select using my selection tool, right click inside the selection and press transform. Just shift it apically. So this will simulate some orthodontic corrections. This can simulate composite bondings. So there are various ways in which you can carry out these simulations. Of course, the first was instant smiles, where we just created a new smile altogether. But here we are working with, say, for example, a composite simulation. So for the same patient, we are able to create multiple treatment options. So here we have lengthened teeth a bit. And again, presented the patient in the form of a before-after video loop there. So we have done some whitening, a little bit of gingival contouring, some crown lengthening. Right? So the smile editing tools, make sure whitening tool, extend tool, and the selection and transformation tools will help you in most of your clinical simulations for carrying out individual tooth movements or say 2 or 3 teeth movements. And most important, gum contouring, the extend tool can be used here. Right? So that was the basis. Now, if you want to undo one step, you can just go back one step. Or if you have to go back to square one, you can just press this reverse button called as revert and everything comes back to square one. Right? So we have undo, redo, and you can just go back to square one. Right? Let us go to veneers or crowns and see how to do basic DSD or the digital smile designing. Now, if you have to plan, say 2 veneers, 4 veneers, 6 veneers, you can use these options to show the patient different treatment options. So just to repeat here again, I'm touching upon the clinical tips, the day-to-day tips which can be used right in front of the patient, very quick simulations. There are detailed tutorials about each and every step available on the website and on most of the screens. Plus, if you need any help with any sort of simulations at any point of time in the software, you can always contact the support team for a one-on-one session as well. Right? So we have uploaded 8 veneers in this patient. We can add more or we can delete as needed. So let us just do a planning for 8 veneers for this patient. So I'm just caring about a gross adjustment of my veneer positions. Now you can click inside each and every tooth template there and get a finer adjustment. Now there are different planning tools, the DSD tools, which are available in the software. Again, talking about digital smile design is a different topic altogether, but I will be just showing you how to use the different tools for your basic DSD planning. So if we can change the shape of each tooth, change the size of each tooth, you can select all. So that shows you the proportions, the height width ratios of teeth as well. So this is a female patient. So I would want the incisal edges to be slightly round. So we can do that. If you want the incisal edges to be more prominent, you can change that as well. So this gives you a lot of control. It becomes a very important tool for lab communication as well. So the lab technician who's doing the final 3D designing will use this 2D smile framework to carry out the final 3D design. Now, in the planning window, you can use these different tools which are available. Just to make sure, again, I am not going to talk about each and every tool in detail, but just to show you the functionality. So I can use my smile curve, for example, check how the smile position of the patient's teeth is. Maybe I would want my teeth to follow the smile curve a little more there. You can use the proportion guides, that's the golden proportion ratio, to check the positioning of teeth. You can even check the height width ratio of teeth and carry out different measurements, right? So I can just calibrate the software where it asks me the distance between any two fixed points, the actual distance. Say, for example, this distance is 20 millimeters in the patient's mouth, the one in the yellow line here. And I can use my measuring tool to just left click and drag. I will just go to the measuring tool and just left click and drag. So this becomes a point of my lab communication. So whatever you have planned in 2D can be transferred to the lab so that they can replicate the same when they do the 3D smile design. As you are already aware that we at DTS are going to come up with a 3D software very soon. So we are expecting it to release within the next 2 months at the most. So where you will be able to carry out a seamless 2D to 3D smile designing and then send the whole thing for a 3D print as well. Right? So this can be exported to the lab. Once your gross designing is done, we can go ahead and apply different textures. So in the new version, you have got some new textures which are available in the software. So I'll go with texture number 1. I go to the preview section. That's my beautiful smile simulation for 8 veneers. You can again adjust the shade, make teeth whiter if needed, or let it remain a little warm. Increase the brightness a bit. And again, you can keep the lip smoothness high. So that's your before after simulation. For 8 veneers, you can just play the same. That's your simulation for 8 veneers. You can have a similar simulation for 6 veneers, 4 veneers, so on and so forth. Right? If need be, you can even add a little bit of gum tissue if you want to mask the underlying gum. In a few cases, you can just add a gum layer on top there. Of course, you can just erase the part of the gum that is not needed. Don't worry about the gum tissue that is extending beyond the lips. It will get automatically. So I've just added a gum mask there as well. And of course, you can change the shape of the gum too. So the gum texture can be changed. You can adjust the brightness, contrast the same way as we can change the shade of the teeth. Similarly, the shade of the gingiva can be changed as well. So in such cases where you want to mask the underlying gum tissue, you can just add a gum layer on top. So that's a single compare. You can change the shadow as well. So as you can see, I'm able to change the shadow of the upper teeth, gives you a more realistic simulation. So you can view it as a side-by-side view or a single view. And I always suggest to keep the opacity slightly less, to say around 85 or 90, so that it gives you a very realistic natural simulation. So this is something which can be designed easily in 2D, either exported to the lab to carry out the 3D design, or eventually do the 3D designing using any 3D software, of which DTS 3D will be releasing soon, as we just discussed about it. So that is more or less about the basic features of DTS Pro. So you can use your, just to help you a very quick recap, instant smiles can be used in most of your simulations. So you can just choose to keep a template of the desired shape and size. Can be used for multiple missing teeth, full mouth rehab cases, implant cases, crowding cases, orthodontics, smile design. So most of your simulations, the motivational mockup, a single instant smile template will do the job for you. If you want to get into single tooth mockup, single tooth simulations, use the smile editing tools, where you can use the extend tool to change the gum contour, to change the gingival contour, to change the enamel contour, change the midline a bit. You can use your whitening tool to whiten teeth a bit. And of course, the selection and the editing tools. So again, the importance of having a little gap between the upper and lower teeth is that if you have a photo which is taken with the teeth in bite, it becomes slightly difficult to individually move upper and lower teeth. But when you have a small interincisal gap, it is easy to change the height or change the position of individual teeth. And about veneers and crowns, we just discussed the basic of digital smile designing and treatment planning. So that is about the basic functionality of the DTS Pro software. Just to re-emphasize again, detailed tutorials about each and every step are available on the website. And I am open to any questions at this point of